Welcome into the Awesemo.com MMA live before lock to get ready for UFC 274, which starts in 1 hour from now with the prelims. Of course, leads up to the pay-per-view. It'll start at 10 p.m. Eastern time, headlined by Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. As we sit here right now, Charles Oliveira is the UFC lightweight champion. But once that referee says, let's get it on, boys, Charles Oliveira is no longer the lightweight champion, missing weight yesterday, the whole debacle that went on with that. Of course, we're going to break this one down for you. You got questions, line those up in the chat. We'll get to those questions as we do go on. Of course, as always, I'm joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Of course, also we're sponsored by PrizePicks. We'll talk about PrizePicks props later on in the show. Good afternoon, Pete. How's it going, man?
What's going on, brother? I am so excited for this fight card, and even Charles Oliveira missing weight and the whole scale issues and the accusations that are going on surrounding it. It's not really affected my optimism with this card. I'm really, really looking forward to the fights. It's a shame that Oliveira missed weight and was stripped of the title. And as a champion, you have one responsibility: is make weight. It's your division. So I don't necessarily feel bad for Oliveira, but it kind of does, taint his legacy in a way. But he has been a fighter who's struggled and been inconsistent with his weight at times. So I think this could, lead to an overreaction of people backing Justin Gaethje even more. But all in all, they're still going to get into the octagon and fight it out. So I can't wait to see the fight.
Something I want you to explain from a cutting weight aspect, because, one of the things that was popped up out there was the fact of on Thursday night, he was on weight, wakes up the next morning. Yeah, he's gained a pound. Explain from your aspect as a guy who's done weight cutting for several years of why that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll float a pound or two. And also depends on what it's largely due to the salt intake throughout the week and the water loading. And sometimes you'll wake up heavier, or sometimes you wake up lighter. And if you're doing it correctly, you should be basically flushing your system to allow yourself to have such an easy cut. Now, if there was an issue with the scale, who knows? But that's why I don't trust scales and I don't trust commissions as far as my responsibility. It's not that I don't trust commissions, but it's my responsibility to know that I'm on weight. So every time that I'm having a fighter or I'm fighting, I'm bringing at least 2 to 3 scales with me. Sounds silly, but I'm checking every time on all scales, trying to find an average of where I'm at, just in case that there's, because some scales you're heavier and some scales you're lighter. And, just banking on waking up and just being on weight is a rarity. Not too many fighters, kind of wake up like that. But I will tell you that there comes a point in a weight cut where you're basically dried up. And the final 2 pounds is some of the most grueling pounds. And that's why we say, if a fighter misses by 5-6 pounds, like a Ray Cooper, did they even try? Probably not. Or are they hiding an injury? When a fighter misses and narrowly misses, sometimes that's a red flag. And it's very difficult to tell, right? Because it's not that he was 156.5. This could have just been completely misunderstanding how your body should be operating.
I will say this, in terms of my thoughts on the fight, it doesn't change how I see this fight going. I mean, I think it's a very close fight. I mean, if you told me these guys fight 10 times, it may be 5 wins for Charles Oliveira, 5 wins for Justin Gaethje. It's going to matter of how this fight plays out. We talked about on Thursday on the strategy show of, if you're in the Charles Oliveira camp, the mindset has got to be, look, we saw what Khabib was able to do once he got Justin Gaethje to the ground. Because you remember leading a Khabib fight, the whole question mark with Justin Gaethje was, okay, we know he has this wrestling background, but we just had not seen it. This was a guy that was known for his kickboxing. And of course, you saw in that fight. So to me, if I'm still in the Charles Oliveira camp, it's about going down and getting this fight to the ground. And I'm seeing some comments in the chat about it. I mean, look, the fact is, everyone else made weight. Yeah. So, obviously there's a lot of comments out there. I would say this. I don't think I texted this to you last night. I texted somebody else. I said, the guy that I want to hear from about this whole situation is not Charles Oliveira. It's not anyone inside Charles Oliveira's team. It's Mark Ratner, the man who runs UFC regulatory affairs. And for what some people may not understand or know is the fact of there is a scale you get on before you even go to the official scale. So it takes out this situation of you get on that first scale, the quote unquote unofficial scale. And if you're a pound, half pound over, there's no reason to send you to the scale unless we're at the end of the weigh-in window. So just something to kind of put in there. I mean,
Absolutely.
look, I think you make a great point. Does it hurt the legacy a little bit of Charles Oliveira? Yeah. I mean, look, I understand that we're in a clickbait world. The other night I'm sitting there and there's an article about how a win tonight makes Charles Oliveira the greatest lightweight of all time. I'm like, what? Do you guys forget what Khabib Nurmagomedov did in this division?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know how it is, Jason. You know, it's just clickbait is everything in a lot of, you know, reporting and MMA media. And you know, I think that at the end of the day, they're still going to go out there and fight. So if people are overreacting to ownership and everybody's flocking towards Justin Gaethje, then we could have Charles Oliveira going a little bit under-owned. And if he shoots a takedown or scores a takedown, I think that, you know, shooting a double leg against Justin Gaethje is going to be a little difficult because Michael Chandler, attempted that and Gaethje defended pretty well in that situation. I think chasing the back is Oliveira's best path to victory. Initiating a clinch or attempting a takedown and then really start chasing the back. And this could be a situation where it's a quick, submission finish before Justin Gaethje even starts to develop a rhythm. Again, I'm split on the pick. I really am. And obviously I'm a little bit worried now for Charles Oliveira, but I'm not like overreacting. It's not like he looked horrible, but still something to consider for sure.
Corey Randall, I appreciate you in the super chat. Of course, if you throw in that super chat, your question does go to the top of the queue. Says, why do I hear everyone not really giving Carnelossi much of a chance today? In my opinion, Godinez is getting too much hype. Am I wrong? Now, look, I think the one thing of why, from a DFS perspective, of why you like Lupe Godinez is the fact of that takedown upside that she does have. She's not someone that you're going to see put together a 4 or 5 punch combination. She's going to be a 2-3 punch combination type of fighter. That's just who she is. But from a DFS aspect, to me, it's all about her ability to get the fight to the ground. Now, if Carnelossi can keep the fight on the feet, now I think you have a very interesting underdog play.
Yeah. And, I think that Carnelossi is a powerful fighter, but I think that she's a little reckless at times. And, I think it's a bet against her gas tank, where I think that Lupita Godinez really can just push a high work rate, and pushing a high work rate can exhaust many fighters who are in good shape. Never mind a fighter who has a questionable gas tank. And I do think that Carnelossi has that. She has the striking edge. She has some sneaky jiu-jitsu, but I feel like Lupita Godinez is definitely the superior wrestler. This is a fight where I feel like everybody's, desperate to find an underdog to come through. And in women's MMA, you have underdogs pop a little bit more often than not. And I don't hate the Carnelossi play. I got the Carnelossi a little bit for sure. But I do think that Lupita Godinez possesses enough striking skills to compete on the feet and has the superior wrestling and cardio. So that's kind of where I'm tilting in her favor. So it's Godinez still for me. But I think the field likes Carnelossi a little bit more than I do.
The one thing and I mentioned this on Twitter on Friday, because of course, when we did the strategy show, the FanDuel salaries were not out. I think today's FanDuel slate is a tougher slate than on the DraftKings slate, because there's some underdogs I really like to get to over on DraftKings. But I did find myself, when I was putting my lineups together for FanDuel today, that Carnelossi was popping.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Ferguson was popping a lot for me too, which I didn't really love. I mean, can I see Tony Ferguson finding a way to win this one? Yes, I can. I just don't love getting to that.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Ferguson made it into some of my lineups just because he's stupid cheap. And even in a loss, he could possibly score enough if it's a high volume 3-round war. His durability has always been solid. He's been knocked down several times, which could definitely boost Chandler's totals. But, outside of the Gaethje finish, which was, like a merciful defeat, I think that, he possesses some, again, he's taken a lot of damage throughout his career. So does Chandler knock him out because of all that damage that he's accrued over his career? Or is this a situation where Tony comes in a little bit in better shape and this becomes just a 15-minute war with Chandler edging him out? or dominating throughout. So I got the Tony Ferguson. It's not like a play where I'm saying that he's going to beat Chandler. It's just in case he does enough in a loss. I mean, he could hurt Chandler on the feet. Chandler's been pretty chinny at times. He could hurt Chandler to the legs. He could even possibly submit Chandler if he decides that he wants to go in and mix in some wrestling. But that we're talking 5 years ago, Tony Ferguson would beat Michael Chandler. As of 2022, I'm not confident that he does. So I think that's why the odds and everybody's on to Michael Chandler.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about Tony Ferguson is you got to look at the version of Tony Ferguson we've seen in his last 3 fights where he hasn't won a round. I mean, it just has not been the Tony Ferguson that we saw that was in that 12-fight winning streak. Hollywood Will, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, for cash play, who are the 2 underdogs with the best chance to win? I think there's a lot of underdogs. Journey Newsom is obviously someone that you have talked about throughout this week. I look at like a GPP upside of Marcos Rogerio de Lima with, if he's going to win, it's going to be early on in the fight. Macy Chiasson could be another interesting one. You look at, I know you like the Chaos Williams side, but Randy Brown to me with the potential getting the fight to the ground, using his jiu-jitsu. Joe Lazone to me is another one. And even though I don't like her to win the fight, getting the Carlos Esparza in cash may not be a bad idea.
Yeah, in cash, it's fine. I think that the Joe Lozon fight and the Cowboy Cerrone fight's pretty even. And you're getting Joe Lozon significantly underpriced, in my opinion. I think that Cowboy's slightly overpriced, just given the past run for both fighters. Joe Lozon, I think, would probably be a cash spot that I would go to just because it's the matchup, not necessarily because I think he's going to dominate Cowboy by any means. I'm actually interested in Melissa Gatto from a submission finish. I mean, Tracy Cortez is a fighter that I know that you respect and you like her a little bit more than I do today. I know she has good wrestling. She comes from a strong camp, but I mean, she has been submitted in the past in a pro debut, which she's evolved a lot since that. But I do think that the physicality of Melissa Gatto could keep this upright. And I didn't necessarily like how Cortez looked in a previous fight. And I do think that the submission skills lie with Melissa Gatto. So those are kind of the 2 that I would look at. But cash is all about avoiding a 0 or avoiding a single digit performance from somebody. So who could possibly just get you points? Women's MMA tends to have less finishes. So that's probably where I would say Melissa Gatto is somebody that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, the Carl aspect, it really comes down to, I feel like we're going to know how this fight's going to play out within the first 3 minutes of the fight. If Rose is able to keep, stop those initial takedowns, because look, everyone in Carlos' camp knows what they have to do to win this fight. Carlos' path to victory is not standing up and having a striking matchup against Rose Namajunas. If this is a striking matchup, it's Rose Namajunas. Yeah, it's Rose Namajunas all day long. And full disclosure, Rose Namajunas is a core play for me today. She is literally, we talk about when I hand build lineups that for MMA, it's always about who am I building my lineup around? And today for me, I'm building my lineup around one of 2 fighters, either Rose Namajunas or Andre Fialho. I think it's a great matchup for Andre. I mean, it's a huge price tag. I feel like when we're talking about those huge price tags, I'd rather get to an Andre as opposed to getting to, say, a Michael Chandler, just because of, there could be a little volatility in that matchup over there. Of course, appreciate everyone that's in here on a Saturday afternoon. Watch the Awesemo.com MMA live before lock. Of course, be sure to do us a big favor. Hit that thumbs up button. That truly does help us out a ton. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Awesemo right here on YouTube, do that. Hit that notification bell so you know when a new show is live here on the channel. If you're not an Awesemo Plus member, of course, going to tell you a little bit about a great promo we have here shortly. Today's free premium data and tools are UFC Pro Plays, NHL ownership projections, MLB ownership projections, and NBA player projections. So you can check that out all over there at awesemo.com. They're a matchup that I found myself not knowing what to do with in GPPs.
Who?
Francisco Trinaldo versus Danny Roberts.
I got to it. I don't think the field's getting to it enough. It's just a slow predicted pace from Trinaldo, and he can be a punching bag at times, but he possesses some like an equalizer, in a big left hand. So I do think that a chinny fighter, Danny Roberts, is susceptible to getting knocked out for sure. Trinaldo at 170 pounds at his age, at, you know, all the damage that he's taken throughout his career, I think a lesser skilled fighter, Danny Roberts, is more alive to pull off the upset than a lot of people are giving him credit. So, I mean, I got to it with a lean towards the price discount of Danny Roberts, but if you're talking about like on paper, resume to resume, Trinaldo looks like this is an easy matchup compared to who he's actually fought over his tenure. So I got to it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are a little light to it, and I'm okay with it because there's so many fights. You know what I mean? Like there's so many fights, and that's why like I didn't lock anybody in this week. I didn't necessarily make a group where I had to have one fight. I feel like this could be a very high scoring affair, and we just need 6 high scoring fighters. So stranger things have happened in a lot of fights. So, you know, make sure that you kind of like spreading out your ownership a little bit. That's what I would recommend today.
Mitch, this question from our Discord chat from Richie says, he goes, are you fading any fights completely? Who's your favorite pay up fighters, and who's your two favorite dogs? In terms of am I fading any fights completely? No, but like I look at a matchup like Trinaldo Roberts, you know, want to limit where I'm getting to there. Limiting Chason and Dumont is another one that I would say, but I'm not really fading any fights. To me, I mentioned my favorite 2 pay options are Andre and Rose. And my 2 favorite dogs, I would tell you, is Newsom and Lazone.
Okay, so, you know, a fighter that I'm light on today, and I think everybody should be because he's making his UFC debut, and it's against a very, very difficult opponent in Andre Fialho, is Cameron Van Camp. I mean, I'm not like, I didn't uncheck him because he's talented in a certain way, and it's mainly with his submission skills. I just think that this is a very bad matchup for him against Andre Fialho. So on the flip side of that, Andre Fialho is one of my favorite plays on the entire slate, and I feel like everybody will be flocking towards Chandler and some of these other big names. And you could be getting Andre Fialho at an ownership discount, and he has some of the best inside the distance odds and some of the best round 1 odds. And yeah, I mean, we saw his skills on full display against Miguel Baeza. So I really like him. As far as like being light on other fights, I'm pretty light on Carla Esparza compared to how I feel like a lot of people are going to be. And it's basically because I feel confident that Esparza is going to look bad tonight. And I don't know why I'm feeling that way, but it's more so about Rose Namajunas being a part of like a super camp with Trevor Whitman, having a great mind behind her, looking amazing in videos and throughout the embeddeds. I'll tell you something that I didn't like is how Esparza has been planning a wedding throughout this entire fight camp, Jason. We're not talking about a party. We ain't talking about, you know, a little anything. We're talking about a wedding. And I've seen, you know, everybody knows this. Weddings are stressful. Never mind when it's your own. And her wedding's next week. So I just feel like that's like absolutely horrible timing. Meanwhile, Rose is thinking and doing everything with Carla Esparza on her mind. And Esparza is worried about, you know, getting married and getting everything in order. So I don't know. I mean, that's like going down narrative street, but I really like that narrative. So I'm backing Rose Namajunas even more so than I would be.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's part of the story. Also, if Carla does get done, she'll have a UFC record to her name, the longest time between reigns as a UFC champion. Of course, I mentioned about the great promo that we have going on over Awesemo.com, where you can get a full 7 days of Also Plus Platinum for just $7. That's 77% off our usual weekly price. We use the promo code Luca at checkout. All you got to do is click the link in the video description below to claim your 747 right now. This will give you access to everything we have to offer for every DFS sport, including player projections, ownership projection, NBA boom bust tool, lineup builders, and so much more. And with the NBA winding down, if you're looking to get started with MLB DFS, this is a great opportunity to take advantage. We also have our all new F1 projections, USFL, tennis, soccer, almost any DFS sport out there. We have some tools for it to help you get that edge. That's $7 for 7 days of Also Plus Platinum with the promo code Luca at checkout, or just give that link below to activate. Again, this offer is for new Awesemo Plus users only. And of course, be sure to add Fantasy Cruncher 2-year count. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. As I'm doing that read, all I can hear you is snickering in the background.
Well, first off, my girl texted me and sent me a lineup. She goes, "Is this a good lineup?" So I had to respond to that. And then I look in chat and I see Boss Man in chat saying, "I was playing DFS a week before my wedding and it wasn't too bad." So shout out to the Boss Man. What's up, Alex?
Hold on. It's different when you're the guy as opposed to the girl. It's just
very,
a tad difference. Hey, Boss
very
Man.
True.
If we go ask your lady,
yeah,
he might say a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Alex, though. Appreciate having him in here as always. And if you guys could do us a favor, get us up over 100 likes. We truly appreciate it.
Let's go. Next question from Discord says, thoughts on CJ Vergara? Seem like he's a good GPP punt being overlooked.
I mean, I have some CJ Vergara just because it's the weight class more so than anything, because I do think that I like what I've seen from Clayton Rodriguez quite a bit. He looks like the more dynamic striker. He looks like the flashier of the two and has the higher finishing upside. But this could be a situation where Vergara's like output and just steadiness is enough to compete on the feet. And in a high octane type of weight class where activity rules everything, you could be getting a close decision here, but I'm still siding with Clayton Rodriguez, but that doesn't mean I'm not getting to CJ Vergara priced at 6,800.
We got a 2v2 question over in YouTube from Nick. Fialho and Ferguson or Chandler and Van Camp, undecided, but something tells me El Kakui can weather the storm. Nick, I'd rather go with that first option, Fialho and Ferguson, than Chandler and Van Camp.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah. Brandon, the house show actually was pretty entertaining last weekend. Samuel, he's now put his number 8.5. Yes, Samuel, that's a way better number than your
Sam. We fixed your line on air, so like that's 6.5. Man, you would have got smashed with that.
Yeah. Nick, by the way, there are plenty of fighters that bring multiple scales to their fights. Plenty of them do.
I mean, it's the corner's responsibility, really. It's not like Charles Oliveira's running around with 2 scales. It's his corner that should have scales on hand, because you have to check in your room as you're cutting weight. You have to check so that you know if you can go to bed and float a pound or whatnot. So, I mean, that's pretty typical.
And here's also what the promotion wants to do. They want you to come down once a day to do a weight check. Yep. So they see where you're at in case they're basically trying to get ahead of it. If they look at some fighter who they may look at and say, there's no way he's going to make weight or she's not going to make weight. And then if there's a drastic amount of weight supposed to be cut, then you might already start the negotiations about doing a catch weight fight.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I fought for Bellator and they made me do that every day. And I was like, what the hell? And it kind of threw me for a loop. And I like it. It's like a nice professional take to make sure that they have a backup plan in store, or possibly reaching out to the opposing team's management to discuss a catch weight or something like that.
Yeah, it's I want to say it's Mike Johnson who does that for Bellator.
I like Michael. Mike's a good guy.
They write down your weight. Like, I would tell you this: if you knew who did that, you can have an edge. Let's just say they know exactly how much a fighter is weighing here. Andrew says, he goes, I have an interesting take, fellas. Maybe Jason and Pete will agree with me. Even if Tony wins, he is still not getting to the optimal. His only way to win is to submit a Gas Chandler late 70 to 75 points. Look, I think if Tony wins, to me, it would be hard for him not to be optimal.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard because, there's so many nice options at the top, and at his price point, it allows you to get to any, everybody. 75 is fine, but if there are 6 fighters that fit into a lineup that are 100 points or more, then you won't need Ferguson. But I mean, the chips are really stacked against Ferguson in this fight. And, we'll have to see if he's made adjustments and how he deals with getting hit with a big right hand of Michael Chandler. But it's been 4 fights since he's won a round. He hasn't necessarily been competitive. So, make sure you don't go over the field. I mean, I'm going a little bit over the field, but don't go overboard.
Yeah. I mean, look, 10-15% is where I want to be on Tony Ferguson.
I am I think I am double the field, or what I'm hoping is up about double. I'm kind of like between 15 to 20%, just because it's a situation where he's so cheap.
To me, the question with Chandler is paying off the price.
It's a hard task, and my buddy actually was talking to me beforehand, just from like a fight standpoint. He's like, I feel like Tony's too tough for his own good and could get knocked down several times, which could possibly lead to Chandler actually paying off that price tag, whereas people are a little scared of it. You know, he can mix in some takedowns, but a decision would be very difficult to pay off 9,600, I would imagine. A first or second round finish with a couple knockdowns and maybe a takedown, and kind of like a war where Tony just kind of gets, taken out as the fight goes on, is probably how he pays off that price tag. But it's interesting. I just can't wait. And that's why, we're all excited, and I'm excited for the fights. Jason, me and the boys, I told you, we're going to FanDuel Sportsbook here in my hometown. And we got ourselves a nice roped off VIP section. We're kicking our feet up, and we're going to be sitting there watching the fights all night long. I can't wait. And all my buddies are betting on stuff, and it's going to be a good old time because I don't get out much. And this feels like I'm going to Vegas tonight.
You roped off area. Like, you're a big deal.
Hey, it's not for me. It's for my buddies to have a really good time. So I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
I mean, don't have me too many seltzers,
I don't know. I might actually do something tonight. We'll see.
Sam, I appreciate you in the super chat. Best DK captain. Looking at the captain contest.
Great question.
Look, I mean, if you want to go down a little bit, man, either guy in the main event is really intriguing. Oliveira 11-4, Gaethje 9-3. I would probably say I still think I would still go Rose Namajunas as my best captain.
My issue with Rose is like ceiling, though. I understand we both like her a lot, and for DFS, 5-round nature, doing just enough to keep it on the feet, minimizing her exchanges with Esparza to make sure she doesn't get taken down. So a more methodical game plan could possibly not result in like 100 plus. It could result in the 90s. So I don't know if I would go captain with her personally, but I get it. It would definitely be a little contrarian because a lot of people hate Rose Namajunas this week, and it kind of threw me for a loop. I just don't necessarily understand the hate towards her, but I mean, I was going to go crazy. He's got his guys.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I was like, hold up.
OSP could be an interesting one.
I kind of like OSP, truthfully. Sitting at 13-2 as a captain. I mean, you got Chandler at 14-1. OSP has takedown upside, submission upside, KO upside over Shogun Rua, who has not looked good at all. So I'm going to go with OSP.
Bro, I'm watching that Shogun interview on Ariel's show. How you don't see a similarities to how he looks like the Brazilian version of Crow Cop at this point.
I don't know how you see Crow Cop out of Shogun. He does not look like Crow Cop to me, but he looks like an old man competing, but I don't see that.
It's crazy. You think about how long that guy has been around, and still to be at, competing at this age and the wars he's been through. It's just crazy to me to see where he is at. Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. Of course, you got to check out PrizePicks. Get 1 free month of also plus platinum where you sign up, deposit, and play over at PrizePicks. You get your email within 24 to 40 hours. How you can't take advantage of that free month of Awesemo plus platinum. Of course, use that promo code Awesemo for an instant first match deposit up to 100. Strategy show haven't changed at all. Chaos Williams, the fight time under 11.5 is still one that sticks out to me. I do like the under on Donald Cerrone's fight time, which was 10 minutes, was one that stuck out to me as well. There really wasn't much of a change when it came over to there. I do like the under 4 takedowns on Carlos Esparza as well. That number hasn't changed at all either.
Usually these lines flip and move like crazy, and I'm okay with it. So take advantage of it. I was talking to my friends saying that I wish we could play in our state, but if you can, it seems like some pretty easy money.
Yeah, you got to check out PrizePicks and the props they have over there. I would say the one that I like the most is that under 4 takedowns on Carlos Esparza and the Cerrone under 10 minutes. To me, I don't think that fight hits the 3rd round. I think it's over within 10.
Yeah.
It's just one of those fights that I don't know if people caught this. So they were supposed to fight last week. And so Cerrone texts Lazone like a couple weeks ago. He goes, bro, we ain't fighting the Apex. We got to fight in front of fans. And so literally, apparently, Cerrone at that point texts Dana and says, hey, man, I'm not fighting the Apex with no fans.
Yeah.
And literally within a couple hours, both guys had new bout agreements that said they would be a part of this card.
That's what happens when you're possibly 2 Hall of Famers and 2 staples and icons and been around the sport forever. You get to call your shots every now and then. And, when you're a company guy like Cowboy has been, and same with Joe Lozon, it makes a little sense too, especially when you want to build a pay-per-view.
Getting asked over to Scored if I still like the first fight of the night. Journey Newsom is one of those underdogs I am targeting. You know me, when it comes to the first fight of the night, I hate to have a strong feel in the first fight of the night, but Journey is one of those underdogs I'm targeting today.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that Journey Newsom realizes that this kid, Fernie Garcia, has good hands. So, and you have been knocked out in the past. Yes, you can compete on the feet, but test his grappling, man. Like, you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Test his grappling. This could be a sneaky situation where we see it all the time on MMA sites where people pull out the wrestling card when we weren't expecting it. And I'm hoping that Journey Newsom does that today and either works his way towards a submission finish or does enough in a decision to end up coming through for some of my lineups.
Joseph says, what round is Gaethje knocking out Oliveira? I think if he knocks out Oliveira, it's within 2.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, can you imagine that fight going 5 rounds? I don't know what the hell would happen. I don't know how the DFS implications, like what would happen in a situation like that.
I think I'd favor Gaethje if it goes 5 rounds.
And just able to keep it on the feet, take his time, a little kind of like how he was a little bit more methodical against Chandler at times, where like he brawled in moments, but it wasn't like he threw complete caution to the wind, and he looked like the more calculated fighter in there.
Yeah. Can you break down De Lima versus Blagoy? Obviously, Marcos Rogério De Lima has that first round upside. But if he can't get Blagoy out in the first round, I think this is Blagoy's fight to lose.
I would agree with you because, Father Time is undefeated and Blagoy is getting up there in age. Rogério De Lima is pretty old as well. But at least Rogério De Lima possesses sneaky round 1 upside against no matter who he faces. Ben Rothwell was, he basically showed us what Rogério De Lima can do in round 1. He can hit you really hard, finish you off with a combination. The issue is that Blagoy Ivanov throughout his entire career has fought like the heavy hitters of MMA and has not been knocked out by them. Now, that doesn't mean that Rogério De Lima, who's a lesser version of those guys, can't knock him out today in 2022. It's just saying that most likely Blagoy is able to weather the storm and either win a decision or incorporate some wrestling and test that horrible ground game of Rogério De Lima. So I personally like Blagoy Ivanov, and I think a lot of people, might be kind of glossing over him. So I'm okay with getting over the field on Blagoy Ivanov today.
Favorite MVP on FanDuel and cheap plays. For me, my favorite MVP is Andre Fialho at $22. When it comes to cheap plays over on FanDuel that stick out to me, Joe Zone at $11 is one that sticks out to me. Justin Gaethje at $16. I think there's great value there. There's not a lot of things under $12 I really like on FanDuel today.
Yeah, it's a little tough over on that site, to be honest. I would imagine that the main event is something that I would target over on FanDuel just because putting it just makes a little bit of sense. You got 5 rounds to work with. You have high finish upside on either side. So the Gaethje call is one that I would probably point to.
Corey, I appreciate you there in the super chat. Rodriguez or Royval, last man in a DK single entry.
It's a very tough fight. I mean, very tough to pick between both of these guys. We've seen more from Royval, right? And we know that he has sneaky jiu-jitsu and reckless striking. Matt Schnell isn't a bad fighter by any means, but he can be can be hit with big shots and hurt and knocked down and knocked out. So I feel like that a lot of people think that Royval has a little bit more potential and upside than Clayton Rodriguez, who, you know, has looked good and has looked like a finisher. But I have to label him somewhat green, despite all the potential that I see in him. I like him a lot. I think this is just an incremental step, as I mentioned on Thursday, where I think it's the proper test for him against CJ Vergara. I think he'll pass with flying colors. So I would have to answer with Brandon Royval. But that's how I would lean.
I would go Royval just because of looking at it from a scoring perspective of just kind of, you know, how he can score and rack up a ton of points. Richie says, he goes, would you make a rule to limit Chandler Fialho to 1 per lineup? Can't be very high chance 2,9,500 plus guys end up optimal correct, especially what you be sacrificing. Yeah, I would not want to get to both of them in the same lineup.
I think I have a couple like that. I mean, but that means you're probably getting to somebody super cheap. So like a CJ Vergara, a Carla Esparza, you're doing something super cheap that's allowing you maybe even a Cameron Van Camp. So you probably feel comfortable with 3 of your 6 fighters, but yeah, you're probably spending a little too much at the top.
Next up, better last piece in DraftKings GPP, Roberts or Newsom. I'd probably say Newsom.
Very tricky. Very tricky.
Trinaldo's just one of these guys, like, man, he just, you know, he's got that old man strength, man.
Yeah, he does. I'm going to go with Roberts in that situation, just because it's the 8,200, 8,000 fight. And it's a pick 'em. And Vegas has been struggling with that fight all week and ever since the line was created. So that's where I'm going to lean.
And by the way, someone brings up the point about Michael Chandler. Chandler could really emphasize takedowns. We've seen, you know, how Ferguson has not been able to stop takedowns this past couple fights.
Yeah, I mean, that is very true. It's just he needs to be very careful with the jiu-jitsu of Tony Ferguson. He put Charles Oliveira in a very deep guillotine, which I thought was interesting that he went for the guillotine. So he has some submission skills himself. But like maybe it's the Joe Rogan factor of pumping up Tony Ferguson's, you know, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu skills. We'll have to see. But I mean, anybody that wants to go light on Michael Chandler today, good luck to you, because I'm with the field. I might even be a little bit over the field.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the one thing is it's just we talk about this all the time of I don't care what sport we're talking about. Film doesn't lie. And the film we have seen on Tony Ferguson in his last 3 fights does not look good. It does not look like a guy that at one time we considered literally the 1A/1B lightweight in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to be in this sport for so long. And, you know, when he was at the peak of his career, he didn't get the super fight that he was longing for. And, I don't know, man. It all comes down to who wants it more in the cage, and staying hungry is very difficult for a lot of fighters. And Cowboy Cerrone expressed how difficult it is to be hungry when you're full, and it's a good way to put it, right? And when you've made it and you got all the money in the bank account and you got everything that you wish for outside of legacy, what's pushing you?
Something to note about Cerrone and Michael Chandler, that their children will be in attendance for the first time for a fight live.
Yeah, I don't know if I would. I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen eventually, but like, I feel like my kids will have to be a certain age before they see me. Like, I don't know. I think that Cowboy son's a little young to be seeing that, but who knows?
Yeah. Brandon, I appreciate you there in the super chat. I always appreciate those super chat love. Brandon, if you got a question, just hit that up in chat. We'll get to your question.
Thank you, Brandon.
Well, see
What
here.
what fight are we not like talking about? And I think I can kind of just point to it real quick. It's got to be that Norma Dumont Macy Chasson fight. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not really interested in Norma Dumont today because I feel like she's going to be at a stature disadvantage against Macy Chasson. I'm getting to Macy because of the length and the volume and the striking skills. And Norma Dumont also missed weight. So there's something to note with that. I liked Chasson before that, price at 7,100. I got to her a fair clip just because in a decision win in women's MMA, it seems like it allows a lot of roster flexibility for me.
So it asks that does the title being vacated affect Oliveira's performance at all? That's a no to me. I don't think it changes one thing.
It's interesting going forward, right? Like I can't wait to see what happens. Like if Oliveira wins tonight, and then it's got to be Islam against Oliveira, right? It has to be. Or you think Conor McGregor has entered the chat?
Dude, I think, okay. Right when you sent me that text yesterday,
yeah,
literally the first thought that came to my mind was, "Oh crap! This just opened up the door for the UFC."
I think Conor's too big though.
I look. I will say this: if Oliveira wins tonight, I think it is highly more likely that Oliveira's next fight is against Conor McGregor than it is against Islam Makhachev.
That's a bad fight for Charlie. Yeah, that's a bad fight. Just from the gets wobbled standpoint, like Oliveira gets wobbled against almost everybody he fights. You know what I mean? If McGregor keep it on the feet, avoid getting taken down, it's a very bad matchup. That's why I like Dustin Poirier in a situation. But I mean, McGregor's ground game is nowhere near Oliveira. So let's not even talk about that. But there's some other fights that a lot of people are interested in. We could touch on the Randy Brown Chaos Williams fight. We could also talk about Shogun as a possible underdog. What are your thoughts?
I mean, look, do I trust OSP? No. But do I trust Shogun at this point in his career? No, I don't.
Yeah. I'm getting to Shogun.
That's a boom bust fight for me.
It is, but like Shogun, he has striking skills. I like OSP a lot today. But like OSP is super inconsistent at times as well. It's not like he's a fighter who's looking great. He's looking pretty bad. So who knows? I mean, I think like bouncing from weight class to weight class could be an issue. So I got to a little bit of Shogun. I'd probably, if we're comparing underdogs, Shogun or Randy Brown, I'd probably take Randy Brown in a situation like that.
Jason and chat, my headset's definitely going, so I'm gonna plug it in. The echo's gonna start. I know it's echoing. I'll figure it out. We got it, chat. Don't yell at me or them. Just maybe not talk a bunch.
All right. It's a super chat here from Sam. Chiasson or Ferguson? I'd rather get Chiasson.
Yeah, it's Chasson for me.
Yeah, that's just where I want to get to. I mean, look, like the Shogun thing to me is like, if this was 5-6 years ago, I'd be much more interested in Shogun. It ultimately comes as I'm getting the Shogun of 2022. I'm not getting the Shogun of 2016.
Shogun has looked like a guy who's just present. And, when Paul Craig beats you on the feet and dominates you in certain aspects of the fight and looks way better than you, like, that the legend has kind of, fallen from the top. And this could be a situation. I mean, Shogun, it seems like he's always battled inconsistency, but also motivation. And I don't know. I'm always going to be taking stabs at somebody facing Shogun in 2022.
Would you rather have OSP or Loopy?
I'm going to go with OSP from a finishing standpoint. Loopy has the scoring advantage because she's a wrestler, but I feel like that's going 15 minutes. And if Carnelossi is able to stop a couple, perhaps we don't get the true ceiling. But, I'm getting to Loopy for sure, but it's got to be OSP for me.
Trey says, who is the quick knockout guy tonight? Could be Chaos Williams.
Somebody we're not talking about, like Chaos Williams. I think he has that death touch. I don't know about quick KO. Fighters on this card who have like some of the fastest finishes under a minute. Andre Fialho is one of those guys against a guy who's stepping up on short notice and definitely not necessarily at the same skill level. So I'm going to go with Andre Fialho.
Yeah. Gato or Carnelossi as a last one in of a sub 7.5K.
I'm going to go with Gato personally. And I feel like the field's going Carnelossi, just because she can throw punches and has a sneaky submission game as well. But I'm going to go Gato because of her physicality and her submission skills. And, seeing what she did to Eubanks is a little impressive. So she keeps it on the feet despite Cortez's style. I think that she wins.
You mentioned about the fight we're not talking about. How about the fighter? And there's a guy that sticks out in my mind.
Oh,
it's a high price fighter. Donald Cerrone.
I mean, it's a fight I love. I love Joe Lozon and Cowboy Cerrone from DFS situation, but I don't necessarily have 8,800 confidence in Cowboy just because I feel like somebody wants to take him out. Round one is how you do it. And Joe Lozon looks really aggressive at times. And if he crowds the kicker and he gets inside that space, this could get ugly early. The fight as it goes on, I do like Cowboy to get into a rhythm and start to implement his kickboxing, but I'm getting to a ton of Cowboy Cerrone and a ton of Joe Lozon. So I'm glad that you brought up Cowboy. It's not a confident play. It's a fight play. And that's a fight I'm targeting.
I feel like if you tell me that fight ends in the first round, I think it's a Joe Lozon win. If you tell me this fight hits round 2 or even round 3, I think it favors Donald Cerrone.
Yeah, I agree with you. And somebody in chat, Fearless, appreciate your input, but I totally disagree. I don't think that Joe Lozon's submitting Donald Cerrone. I've trained with Cowboy for a very long time, and his ground game is some of the best and one of his most underrated aspects of his game. Outside of the Craig Jones situation, I mean, I think that this is going to be where their ground games nullify each other. You can't even compare Craig Jones to Joe Lozon. Come on.
If you do not know the grappling world, and I'll tell you, so when we were in, COVID lockdowns and all that, I love the submission underground stuff. I would watch that too. Every time it was on. Craig Jones, for people who do not know, when it comes to submission grappling, he's a bad MFer.
Oh yeah, bro. I love it. Absolutely love it. So, Cerrone just lost a grappling match to Joe Selecki. Joe Selecki is a phenomenal grappler as well. And it's strictly grappling, and they put you in poor positions, in overtime periods it's a back take or starting in an arm, you know what I mean, they're trying to find a way they're trying to find a way for you to get a finish and you to be the rightful winner in a situation like that. So as far as MMA grappling and MMA jiu-jitsu, I would say that Cowboy is not getting submitted today.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, it's one of these things with both these guys of where they're at this stage in the career. I mean, look, I think that when you're talking about GPP fights, I think you have to prioritize. I would prioritize that fight.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And that kind of goes right into our super chat of Sam Pierce talking about Cerrone, saying Cerrone and Royval or Chandler and Williams. Ooh, I think that there is more KO and finish upside for the Chandler and Williams side than I do the Cerrone and Royval side.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that my thought is, I'm thinking, okay, where's the higher ceiling at? And to me, it's got to be on the Chandler Williams side as opposed to the Cerrone and Royval side. It's
close though, Sam. It's close. Now that I think about it a little bit more, it is really close.
I mean, Royval could rack up a ton of points with takedowns and control time too.
That's a really, really close one. I think naturally, if you're looking at salaries, Chandler looks like an absolute smash play today against a fighter who's taken so much damage. So I'm still going to say the Chandler side, but it's pretty close.
Of course, one thing that Pete and I would love to see happen today is we, of course, love to see those winning screenshots. And we want to see you go into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Of course, you got to be rocking that also avatar on your DFS profile. Of course, when you place the top 3 of concepts over 5 tests and tweet your wins to @Awesemo HOF. You win a free month of Also Plus Platinum. Of course, only one free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. Looking at some of the people that have most recently gone to the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Congratulations there to Jadon One taking down first place, $3,700 over there on DraftKings. Kudos to what you were able to do over there on DraftKings. and that winning lineup that you had there. Also, you had Michael taking down $10,000 over there on FanDuel with his MLB contest, winning a nice $10,000 over there. Congratulations to you. I don't get to play MLB every day, but tried to get an MLB every day as a kid. Jerry also taking down a contest over there on FanDuel, winning $2,000 in a mini max contest. Congratulations to you for a $2,000 winner over there. Also, you had Rio take down over $600 in a NBA contest. Of course, you got to check out everything we have here for NBA with as we're getting down the line here, what he was able to do there. Also, congratulations to John taking down $100 in a 3-max contest over there on DraftKings. Also, Jim, what he was able to do, win $375 over there in a takedown contest as well. So congratulations to everyone that has gone into the Awesemo Hall of Fame over the past couple of days. We definitely want to see you get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame coming up here for UFC 274. Just a couple more minutes here left in the show. Of course, lock coming up here, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, so just under 8 minutes or so from now. So hopefully you've got those CSVs in. I made sure before the show was in that had everything in there when it came to FanDuel and DraftKings, and try to take down that 200K on DraftKings today.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to take down a tournament today, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good today, whether it's me, you, somebody in chat. I'm feeling really good today. Somebody's taking it down, and it's going to be a good night of fights. So cannot wait, man. And I'm checking right now, making sure that there's no cancellations, because that's going to be some major CSV edit crunch time. 8 minutes to go. We're looking pretty good right now, though. So we're looking good, guys.
Yeah, I always tell you when it comes to that stuff, someone like an Aaron Bronster is really good. John Morgan, another one to people to follow there when it comes to MMA Twitter. Of course, if you do got any last minute questions, be sure to line those up in chat. We'll get those as we do go on out of here. Just try to look at some other fighters. I think probably Fernie Garcia is probably someone I'm probably not getting to as much as I should.
Yeah, I mean, that naturally happens when we're going a little bit over the field to Newson, who's going relatively underowned. So it's just like a wild card. We don't know much about Fernie outside of finding his first knockout of his career on Dana White Contender Series. So is that the standard moving forward? We'll have to see. We got Josh Shack in chat saying, last try before a lock, Lima or Newsom? God bless, fellas. Good luck.
I think Lima's got the higher upside, but I would rather get to Newsom's side.
I would agree with you, just because I think that Roger de Lima pulling this off would actually really surprise me. Newsom, not so much. He's a guy who has 4 UFC fights or 3 UFC fights going up against a UFC debutant. So we'll have to see.
Mentions this question from Discord says straight up, who do you like, Williams or Brown? It's a coin flip for me. I'm gonna go with Brown because of the potential grappling upside.
Yeah, I'm going Chaos Williams. I think that people keep sleeping on him. The doctor's gonna have to wake him up, as he says. So I think Chaos Williams knocks him out.
I mean, the one thing I think is a question mark with Chaos Williams is what does that ground game look like? I think that is a little bit of a question mark.
Yeah, very true.
We'll end on this question. Joshua says, what was your after weigh-in meal, Pete?
See, these people that like splurge after making weight kind of like confuse me. It's like, hey, idiot, you got to fight tomorrow. Like, okay, you went all training camp eating healthy, and now you're going to get like Reese's and you're going to eat this and ice cream sundae. Like, bro, when my guys, I'll tell you this real quick. When my guys made weight and they came back with Ben and Jerry's, I almost slapped all 3 of them because I was so upset with them, because I was like, you guys still have to fight tomorrow. What are you doing? You didn't win anything yet. You won the first battle. You didn't win the war. So like, celebrate after. You should get back to still on your diet, eat a little bit more, but save the good stuff for after the fight. And that's all I'm going to say.
I feel like you're a grilled chicken kind of guy.
No, bro. No, I mean, oh yeah. For fight camp, grilled chicken, tons of it, rice and, all that good stuff. So, and then after, I'll go to Bobby's Burgers and I get 2 burgers. So that's definitely in a nice little milkshake. So, but not before the fight.
That's awesome. So hopefully everyone, we got a great night of fights lined up for you. Of course, appreciate everyone tuning in for Live Before Lock. Of course, we'll be back here next week for the strategy show on Thursday and Live Before Lock on Saturday. Hope everyone has a great night, and we will talk to you next week right here on Awesemo.com. Have a great day, everybody.